Divided into two halves, right and left. Right is for the deoxygenated blood, the left is for the oxygenated blood, and in between them there's a septum. There is septum. Okay. Okay. The left ventricle is connected to the vena cava, superior and inferior, receiving the blood from all the body parts. Okay, deoxygenated blood, and after this, the blood is being flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle. Then the right ventricle pumping the blood through the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery, one branch for the left lung, and the other one for the right lung for the pulmonary circulation, in order to have the blood exchange. Okay. Then the deoxygenated blood will be now oxygenated blood. Then the blood will come back to the left ventricle, okay, through the pulmonary vein, okay. When it receives the blood, the left atrium, then the blood will flow from the left ventricle to the from the left atrium to the left ventricle. Then the left ventricle pump the blood through the aorta to all the body parts, up and down. Okay. Yes. Now we will discuss the same issues, but in real. This is actually a part of a heart. It's not a complete heart. What? It's not. Please, any comments? You can't say anything. Okay. Okay. Now, please. The heart here, it's just only maybe maximum 1/3, maybe 1/4. Okay. There's a cap here connected to the veins and arteries, and here there is a completion for the same heart. By the way, if it's whole heart, we can see very obviously the pericardium that is surrounding the heart and providing the protection for the heart. And here you can see very obviously a fat layer. Who can tell me what the purpose of this fat layer?
Because it produces more energy.
Providing energy for the heart muscle, because we discussed before in chapter 2, Chemicals of Life, that the one fat molecule, 1 fat gram, it gives you more than 1 gram of carbohydrate plus 1 gram of protein together. Okay, so we need this energy for the heart muscle to make use of them to perform their function. If you have any question when I finish, tell me this question if I'm not answering them. Okay. Then we have, if we divide it into two halves, we have the right and the left part. Okay. Here, as you know, or as you can see. Okay, let's do it. Yeah. We have here the right part or the right half, and this is the left half. This is the right atrium. The atrium, even right and the left, this is the right atrium, and this is the left atrium. Both of them are made of thin, smooth muscle. Thin, smooth muscle. You will say, if this thin, smooth muscle, then what are the thick muscles? The thick muscles are of the ventricles. Okay, the muscles of the ventricles are hard muscles. Who can tell me why the atria are thin, smooth-walled, why the ventricles are strong, hard muscles?
The ventricles need to provide huge pressure for the blood to move to all of the body parts.
Yes.
While
yes.
the arteries only
the atria
only provide pressure to move it down to the
ventricles. Yes. Because the main function of the atria is to receive the blood. Okay. But if they will pump them or pump the blood just from the atria to the very adjacent chambers or the ventricles, unlike the ventricles that will pump the blood from the ventricles even to the all of the body, such in the left ventricle, or to the lungs, such what happened in the right ventricle. And from this I can tell you a question or ask a question: why the wall of the left ventricle is very, very distinguished? It's thicker than the wall of the right ventricle. Okay, Hassan.
Because the left side pumps the blood
to all over the body.
Yeah,
while the right to the lung. Just to the lung. Only one organ, and the distance is shorter than the distance of all the body. That's why the left ventricle or the wall of the left ventricle is much thicker than the wall of the right ventricle. Okay, very important notation also. Of course, if it's complete, gonna be better, but we can make use of what we have in our hands. Here, in between the atrium and the ventricle, there is the atrioventricular valves. The atrioventricular valves. The right one is known as tricuspid, and the left one is the bicuspid. Okay, the tricuspid valve or the tricuspid are made of flaps. If you can see here, those are the flaps.
Can be seen from.
Look, yeah, this is the flap. This is the flap of the valve. Why it can be upward?
Tendons.
Yes, because it's attached to the wall of the ventricles by tendons. If you look from down, from the ventricles, look here, they are attached by ventricles. Can you see here? Those are tendons. Okay, that attaching the flaps of the tricuspid and even the mitral or the bicuspid, preventing the flaps from moving upwards, not to allow the blood to backflow from the ventricles back to the atrium. Okay? Okay. We have, in contrast, of course, this is the tricuspid, one flap, okay, second flap, third flap. And here we have the bicuspid or the mitral valve, okay? This is one flap. Of course, it's not connected because the tendons are cut, that's why. If it's whole mount or the whole heart, we will have it very clearly, but as we have only this piece of the heart and the tendons here are cut, okay? So, on the other hand, we have the semilunar valves, the semilunar valves. Semilunar valves are only found at the bases, are found in all the veins, okay? But in arteries, all of the arteries lack of the semilunar valves, only the base of the pulmonary and the aorta. In the base of the pulmonary and the, no, only artery. Okay, in the base of the pulmonary artery and in the base of the aorta. Look here. The structure of the semilunar valves are totally different than the structure of the bicuspid and the tricuspid or the atrioventricular valves. They are, look here, those are the semilunar valves. Can you see them? First of all, they are unlike the atrioventricular valve. It's not downward, they are upward. Okay, and they are making a bucket shape. They are not attached to any tendon, but they have a very unique structure. Look here. If you can look here, look, this is a bucket, making a bucket. And here also, there is a bucket. And here, there is a bucket. The blood will be pumped from the ventricles, okay, to the artery. How come? Look here. This is the ventricle, and the blood will be pumped from the ventricles. Of course, the bicuspid or the mitral valve will close to allow the blood only to move in one direction, which is the aorta. Look here, like this. Aorta is the biggest blood vessels, the biggest blood vessel in your body. This is the aorta, okay? While moving so, the pressure causing the semilunar valves to move upward, upward, allowing the blood to be directed from the ventricle up to the aorta to all over the body part, okay? The blood couldn't backflow because if it do so, the buckets will be filled with blood. Can you look here? All those buckets will be filled with blood. When they are filled with blood, they will close. They will close, okay? Preventing the blood from backflow from the artery back to the ventricles, okay? Okay. Another very important notation that, for example, we have one remain vein. It was here. Okay, this is a vein. Why the wall of the vein is very distinctly, it's smaller and thinner than the wall of the artery. Very obvious. Why? Okay, Omar.
Because the blood lost its pressure from after pumping.
Okay.
So they're leading to they need valves to control their blood flow. While the arteries, they have
Okay.
They're pumping the pressure to control the flow of the
Okay,
blood.
my question, by other words, okay, why the wall of the artery, why the artery is thicker, stronger, tougher than the wall of the vein? Very simple.
To withstand the pressure?
Yes, to withstand the pressure caused by the systole or the contraction of the ventricles. That's why the walls of the artery should be very tough, strong, to withstand the pressure caused by the contraction. Okay, unlike the veins, just only taking the blood from the body parts to the heart, so there is no pressure coming from the parts. That's why even the veins contain valves, in order to be sure that the blood will be directed in one way from the organs back to the heart. Okay? Okay. Now, if we are talking about very important thing that may be tricky for some of you, the atrial systole and the ventricular systole. By the way, systole means contraction and diastole means
Relaxation.
yes, relaxation. So, if you are talking about the atrial contraction or the atrial systole, it starts when the atria receives blood. For example, when the atria receives blood, okay, then the walls of the atria will contract, will systole, in order to push the blood by a pressure down to the ventricles. Okay, at this moment, and by the pressure caused by the contraction or the systole of the walls of the ventricle of the atrium, okay, the blood will flow downward to the ventricle. Okay, okay. Look here. If you are, in order to see it obviously, look. When the blood is being received down, okay, or bumped from the atrium to the ventricle, the atrioventricular valve, this valve, okay, will be opened by the pressure, okay, so the blood will flow down, and when it's received by the ventricle will diastole, will relax, okay. At the same moment, okay, when it relaxes, what will occur? One valve open and one valve close. Okay, tell me. I'm being here. Okay, one valve open and one valve close.
Yes.
What is the valve that will close and what is the valve that will open? Who can tell me?
Atrial systole?
Keep on forgetting the name.
By the way, this one is open because of the pressure, so the atrioventricular valve will be open. Okay. In contrast, while the ventricle relaxes, okay, the semilunar valves in the base of the aorta and pulmonary artery will be closed in order not to allow the blood to backflow from the aorta and pulmonary artery back to the ventricles, okay, to prevent the backflow of the blood, okay. In contrast, if we are talking about the ventricular systole, okay, what the meaning of systole? Systole means contraction.
Yes.
Okay, when the ventricle receives the blood from the atrium or the atria, they will start now to contract by a pressure, forcing the blood to move. But in this time, okay, tell me. At this time, okay, one valve open and one valve close.
Semilunar valves open and
Yes.
atrioventricular valves closed.
Okay, excellent. The atrioventricular valves will be closed because of the contraction, because they are like this. When the ventricle contracts, and by the help of the tendon, they will not upwards toward the ventricles to prevent the backflow of the blood from ventricles, in this case to the atria. They will close. Okay, the flaps will close. Okay, and And in the same time, the semilunar valves, as they are directed upwards, the pressure caused by the contraction or the systole by the ventricles, causing the blood to go upwards in one direction from the ventricles to or towards the arteries, whatever the atrial or the the pulmonary artery or the aorta. And by the way, aorta makes a branch, make a branch, okay? Or we are name it as arc, and even the pulmonary artery making something called pulmonary arc. You can see it in the model, okay? Here it's known as the pulmonary arc. This is the aorta, and this arc is known as pulmonary. This is the pulmonary artery, and this is the aorta, also making an arc. This is the arc of the aorta. You can see it, okay, branching downward to all the body parts in the lower part, and upward to the head and the other body parts in the top. Okay. Then we are talking about very important branch of the aorta that is feeding and responsible for feeding the muscle of the heart, which is known as the coronary artery. And because of this, we have the disease that is known as CHD, or the coronary heart disease. Okay, the coronary heart is the coronary artery is a branch of the aorta. Okay, this branch is responsible for feeding the muscle of the heart itself, and as the muscle of the heart takes the food, nutrients, oxygen via the coronary artery, and they are releasing after metabolism and respiration, vital activities. They are giving what? Waste products and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide and waste products will be taken back via the coronary vein. The coronary vein bore its contents into right atrium via vena cava. So the coronary vein is connected first to the coronary artery at the end of the coronary artery to take the wastes from the coronary artery, from the cardiac cells, the cells of the heart muscle, back to the right atrium through the vena cava. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah. Teacher, at the beginning you mentioned that the heart has a lot of fat. Isn't that can also have damage on it?
No, the fats are surrounding the heart in order to support the muscle itself with high energy level of the material.
But there is a lot.
No, it's not in the cells, just surrounding. Because when it needs energy, we'll take from this because it gives the heart a high energy level. Yeah. And even also insulation and protection against the frictions. Yeah.
It says in the book that too much fat can stop the blood from moving.
Too much fat inside the vessel, not outside surrounding the heart. Yes, 1 second please. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it here.
How did you construct the cranial bypass? The bypass.
Let's read in the diagram. It's gonna be much more easier. Okay, any question? Okay, thank you. See you.